Let's talk some toys in here.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today it's the Man-Child. Okay, so today for review, this is part 10 of opening up my MOTU Classics figures for talk and review. So yeah, the next 3 figures I decided to pick was some Snake Men. Snake Men were always a cool faction, going back to the vintage days. I remember walking into Child's World for the first time and coming across the Snake Men, and the first 3 I picked up was King Hiss, Rattlor, and Tongue Lasher. And then I think like Squeeze and Snake Face come a little later. But yeah, it was cool he made them into classics, and these are the first 3 I wanted to go over, so let's check them out. So first up, let's just jump right over to King Hiss. So yeah, again, I remember getting King Hiss as a kid. I thought he was really cool looking for the time, you know, and just being the leader of this new Snake Man faction, and that his armor skin was, you know, supposed to split off, and then he had a pile of snakes underneath him. And out of vintage one, he had the arms clipped over the main snake arms, from I remember, like the skin and the glove piece, it pulled off from the front. And I think the 2 parts of the body split in half. And the upper part that covered the face, that was the front part that also come off from what I remember with the vintage King Hiss. And then he had this, you know, the body snakes. Now the classics did add that in the bottom, but now it looks like you remove the upper part of the buck and just snap this on. So the skin and the arms don't pull off like the vintage, which is fine for the classics. And I even have a spare Serpent King Hiss attachment right here. So we'll get into that later. That even looks, you know, that's just has a much better design, excuse me. Goes back to like 2000X. And here's a quick look at the bio for the classics King Hiss. You want to pause and read that. Alright, so we have the classics King Hiss out of card with all his accessories. And yeah, I gotta say, he really looks awesome. Yeah, I like this snake piece too that's gonna replace that upper body. That's different from the vintage one. Okay, so taking a closer look at the classics King Hiss. Yeah, again, I always loved this scaly plated armor suit that he wears as part of his disguise as being a serpent, you know, snake, king of the snakes. So yeah, he has the scaly plated helmet, I'm gonna call it, with the face mask and then the human face, you know, just on the outside of it. I also love how they painted the little reptile, you know, slits in the eyes, so he has the white eyes with, you know, those going. Let's see, they look like they're red. So as far as the articulation with that head, you can look all the way to the left, right, go all the way down and back. So pretty cool. Now, yeah, the helmet doesn't, it's like kind of a separate piece inside the face, but it doesn't come off. It's all glued together. Maybe it's all part of sculpt. It's all hard to tell. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't come off from what I see. But yeah, really cool details. All right, it's the front and the back. I like how the extra plate, you know, just the different designs and textures with the plating. How you have this piece that vertically goes down, and then the, you know, pieces that go horizontal across the helmet. Yeah, just really interesting. I also always liked that he had the neck plates protecting the neck all the way up to the chin and main face. So yeah, you just had that scaly armored skin going all the way down as part of the neck. Then you have this big plate with the snake symbol. Yeah, I remember as a kid the first time seeing that. Like, obviously there was the Snake Men, or their symbol. And then this plate is, I guess, just a big piece of shoulder armor that goes around the whole body. Now this is all, I think, just all part of this sculpt painted silver. And then moving down, just, yeah, obviously, you know, it sort of has the MOTU big muscle aesthetics, but again, just all covered by this plated armor. Now he does have a ab cut here, so he can bend all the way forward and back, and he spins at the waist. And then what's interesting, here's how he pops apart at the waist, where a lot of classics don't come apart. It's kind of, you know, this separates more like the Origins figures now. And the other thing too I noticed is the peg, you can see, comes out of the body, not the lower part of the legs. I'm going to show you why later on, going back to that extra serpent piece. So you could snap that on. Yeah, and again, I like the green colors, but he also has a black, like, overspray all mixed in the body. See that with a lot of classics figures. And here's a look at the back. So then you even have, yeah, extra armor. Reminds me of the Cobra Khan hood a little bit, overhanging the main armor coming around the ribs. Pretty cool. And then you can see where it's cut for the ab in the back. Okay, and flipping back around. Yeah, moving over to the arms. Again, just those plated arms. Now, the articulation is really limited with this figure. And he also suffers what they called, with the classics at the time, I think it was called like the big bulky syndrome or something like that, or big buck syndrome, I think I heard it called. Yeah, where the lats just, they go out so much on the left and right side that they affect the biceps on the arms trying to move them forward, or sometimes the armor pieces look really wacky. Now, this armor is all part of this figure, so it's not bad, but some classics trying to pop the snaps and stuff, it's really annoying. As far as your arm articulation with this plated armor, yeah, it can't, it's like really stuck and go up. Wow, mine's stuck. Okay, up, down, let's see. Forward, back, bicep swivel, you can bend at the elbow. That's just about as far as I can go to the face with him. And down to the body, really limited. And then he has that glove, right? And then, the hand's all part of it. And that can spin in a semi-gripping pose for weapons. Look at my waist ready to fall apart. Then the other arm, too. It's like, wow, I can't even barely move this. Hinge joints, and they're kind of stuck. I got to heat that up. But, it should be able to go all the way up and out. Forward, back. So that's okay. And again, a bicep swivel. And then bend it. The elbow again, and then the hand spins, and yeah, that's about it. He's all falling apart. Wow, this piece is weird, really loose. All right, so that's the arms for now. Yeah, very limited. So let's see. All right, so we already talked about the waist. We know he comes apart. He's falling apart. Yeah, and this was the first time they used this newer belt loin guard, scaly loin protector for the Snake Men at the time. Yeah, that's it. It's all one piece. So front and back, and then going down, so to the legs, just same thing. Those scales and plates continue like the rest of the body, that armor. And as far as the articulation with those legs, we kick forward, back, bend at the knee, right? The legs all kind of the same. But that one, bend at the knee, you can go out with a split pretty well. Okay, yeah, he has a swivel because you can see those cut, the cut in the joints. Or the armor, and this guy just, wow, he just falls apart so easy. Let's see, and then you dropping down. This was the newer style boots at the time, King Hiss. Then they used on other figures later. And you can just see, it looks like a typical pair of boots. And now these are, do these spin? Yeah, they do spin, so they're separate. All right, the other boots are all the same. Then a foot can go up. All right, not really up and down. How about this one? Rock side to side. Yeah, this figure's really stuck and has some issues I have to work on, but yeah, that's about it as far as the plating and the overall design of this Classics figure. And now, taking a look at that serpent form of King Hiss when his skin splits apart and busts off the body. And again, the vintage figure, the pieces in the arm pieces came off these snake arms, which are a lot longer for the Classics. The ones on the vintage were really short and stubby, almost something like these. And they articulated them down from what I remember. But this is a cool design, a lot larger, stands out. Even has an articulated jaw now. It's rubbery, but it does have articulation. So you can open it up, right? Kind of a tongue painted in there, the fangs. I like that. The head's soft, but it doesn't articulate. Has some really nice scaling and colors going all the way down. And again, so these are the main arms, but they're on bendy wires, which, yeah, that's another really cool design. Compared to the vintage one of the day. And then the vintage one, too, had little snakes sticking out. They were really tiny, I believe. Where these two are a little more profound. They stick out more, and they're just, yeah, they're sort of flexible, not articulated. So, yeah, neat, pretty cool piece. Now, let me bring King Hiss back again, because he's ready to go. This piece just keeps falling off. That's it. Pull the body off. And let's snap this piece in and take a look at that. And then, of course, there's a quick look at that serpent form that we just put on the upper part of King Hiss's body, or, again, where his skin would explode off when he's ready to battle or fight or gets threatened. So, yeah, obviously we're familiar with the arms and just how they work. And now, obviously, this can articulate all around because it's on that peg. We're familiar with the legs and stuff. Now, yeah, it's really sloppy with that. Just looking front and back. So, yeah, again, pretty cool. A lot over the vintage one. Now, the other thing is going back to the Serpent King Hiss one I showed in the beginning of the video. Yeah, that's even better because of the arms, the neck, the neck protrudes and all that good stuff. But, I'll pop this off for a second. What I just noticed is, see, the peg sticks out of this, and this one has a hole in it. Now, this came from this was a loose Serpent King Hiss upper half for the Classics that I bought as a custom. However, I do have one in card. All right, so I'm going to keep this in card for now, but you can see the kind of legs it came with. So it did come with a similar loincloth, that scaly loin protector, and bare snake legs, and it even come with a spare head, shield, stuff like that. Maybe at some point I'll take this out and review it. It's not going to be part of this review, but this is the same piece. And it was meant for Origins Custom, but now with the Classics, I was like, okay, I can just pop it on. Yeah, I can make a peg piece, something to go in here and retrofit it, so it's not the biggest problem, but it doesn't just snap right on. Anyway, if you can visualize that on those legs, that's what it would look like. Yeah, it's really bizarre that it's backwards, and I'm assuming that the legs that this came off of, like the one I showed in card, the peg's backwards as well. because that's how they make you buy both. You know, not that you can't customize this, but that's what it looked like. That's really cool design. Wow. All right, wanted to bring that in, so it's actually meant for this one. But if you didn't have this, this is still pretty cool, going back, you know, to what the vintage King Hiss looked like. Okay, then moving forward with the rest of King Hiss's accessories. So yeah, he gets the typical Snake Man snake staff in green. This was pretty much always green, going back to the vintage, I believe. Of course, the classics, and I think the origin one was well. Excellent detail, though. Not only, it's not just a snake sculpt on a piece of rod, you know, a pole. But the rod, it's actually separate from what I can see. It's like plugged and glued in. It has a plug down here. It coils around. And up here too. You can separate this if you wanted to. It's like pegged and glued. But yeah, really cool detail for the, I guess these were magic snake staffs. They even have extra painting and they diamond scales in the back of this. And then of course he comes with the red snake shield. Again, really cool detail. Obviously a snake, you know, as part of the shield in the front. Yeah, that orb piece, that's very similar to what's on top of this magical staff. And then you can see where it clips onto the arm. All right, so once again, I put the upper part of King Hiss back on the legs, or his, you know, disguised form. And I just put the snake staff in the right hand, of course, the shield on the left. And just a quick look at that setup, how he holds everything. And then as far as comparisons, so here's a quick look at the Classics King Hiss against the Origins King Hiss. It's the only comparison I have. So there's a quick look at those two together. You can just see the overall design, right? Snake staff, the shield. Yeah, how they went about the Origins King Hiss. Now, this figure too, the arms do come off, but they didn't split off the snake arms, right? And then the you know, the skin itself, it's an armor piece that actually comes off. And then here's a quick look at the last part of the comparison, where once again I convert King Hiss into a serpent form. So we're already familiar with the classics front and back. And this is the serpent form of the Origins one, if you're not familiar. Maybe you are. So, yeah, the Origins, again, here's that rubber piece of armor, so it splits, and that's how you would take it off this body. So it's always covering the body. You have these larger serpent snake arms, which are, yeah, really cool over the vintage ones, and they articulate. Would have been neat if they sculpted the mouths open. Kind of wish they did that, at least one of them. And then once you had the armor on, these arms would replace those. And then, of course, you take off this larger serpent head, so that also goes on, articulates. See how that's sculpted open? That's what they should do with these. It's the front and the back. Yeah, and then when everything's on, you'll put that disguised King Hiss head back on. He spins at the waist. So that's kind of how they went about him in the Origins. Yeah, a lot different in the vintage. Obviously, it's wider here. Does have the smaller snakes going around, you know, a little bit sculpting, but they're more profound with the, obviously, the classics. And the arms, yeah, everything's totally different. But, you know, they are really cool in their own way, whether you have the classics or the Origins. Okay, so next up, we're going to take a look at TUNG LASHOR. Yeah, TUNG LASHOR was another interesting figure. Again, going back to the vintage line, because of his colors. He really stood out the most, I think, with all of the Snake Men at the line at that time. Even to this day, what the Origins already put out. As far as his design and colors. And it's just, yeah, like a purplish, he has the light purplish tone with deep purple striping in different parts of his arm, the big orange chest and buck, of course the snake symbol. His head too reminded me of not so much a snake, like a tree frog or some type of lizard maybe. So he's like a poisonous lizard or tree frog mixed with snake. I always liked the 3 big finger gloves. That was unique, and his feet, you know, as well. And then what the classics did with this figure is, instead of having the action feature roll out tongue like the vintage did, they gave him a secondary mouth where the tongue's just hanging out. He's popped the head on. So I think that's pretty cool. It's a good way to go about it with this figure for the Classics line. And here's a bio for TUNG LASHOR. You want to pause and read that? Alright, so the Classics TUNG LASHOR is free from card. Here's a quick look around with him and all his accessories. So, taking a little closer look at the Classics TUNG LASHOR. As far as the head. Yeah, again, I really like that head. It doesn't look like a snake, but it definitely looks like, yeah, again, some type of frog or lizard or poisonous reptile. It's all the same. But yeah, the Classics did a pretty good job with them, like a lot of these figures. You can see now, this is obviously the closed mouth head, and then we'll put the open tongue head on in a little while. But it looks very close to the vintage, what the Origins did. So you have the fangs sticking out at it. So they're coming off the lower part of the jaw that's closed, it looks like, and they stick up, right? They're sculpted outwards, painted, obviously. And then you have the lower fangs that are, I guess, part of the top jaw sticking down. And then you even got these lower fangs that also I'm assuming are part of the upper jaw sticking out when his mouth is closed. Has the big yellow eyes with the slits in them, reptile-looking eyes, or frog eyes. Right, the fin on the head. Just a quick look at the back. Right. And so as far as the articulation with this head, you can look all the way left, to right, go down about that far and up. Now, he has a little different neck design in the vintage Origins, a little bit. It's like extended, and he has the typical, classic style buck. I mean, designed different because of the chest and the sculpting, from what I can see. But I bring that up because what I always liked about the vintage and the Origins is TUNG LASHOR was very stocky. So this figure doesn't look bad in the classics. The more I look at him at a card, I like the look because he's just tall and it works. And also, too, I like the way the head blends in and cuts back to the neck because of this extension piece on the neck. No, this is fine. It's not bad the way it all blends in. So, yeah, obviously you can see the stripes going down the back. Yeah, just the color is really interesting. It's like some kind of weed or something like that. Tree you would see, but purplish tone. He even has some bumps going sculpted outwards on the back. All right, then moving down to the chest. Yeah, just that big orange, like extra plating that you would see on a, or skin, heavier type of skin. Of course, the snake symbol sculpted outwards and painted green. Always love that, going back to the Snake Man and faction. And as far as, so he does have the ab cut that can, so he can bend forward and go all the way back. And then there's the cut in the very back. I'm going to take a look at it. It's not bad. Blends in well with this type of aesthetic, his design. He can spin at the waist. So moving over to the arms. So as far as the arms, they look like regular classic He-Man style arms, at least up to the bicep, tricep area, and shoulder. And then of course you move down. It's these, I love these gloves. Again, it looks like it's like a big, how a frog would have those big sticky pads on their main feet. I guess that's what it's supposed to hint with this character. So as far as articulation, go all the way up, down, right, forward, back. Then you have the bicep swivel. You can bend the elbow all the way up to the face with those big gloves and outwards. So that's pretty cool. And all right, so we already said that. And then the 3-finger glove can spin, but doesn't go in and out. And then moving over to the left arm, right, articulations are all the same. Let's test it out, up, down. Let's see, forward, back, bicep swivel. Okay, bend at the elbow, straighten the elbow out. Again, that big frog glove. Toad hands can spin. Now you notice too that he has a horde band on, right? Now that can come off if you want it to. I'm just gonna leave it on. And if you read the bio, his classics bio, he basically switched sides with the horde after Cobra Khan got rank under King Hiss, and he didn't. He wasn't like next in line for a higher rank. So apparently he switched to the horde in that story. Okay. All right, moving down, he has a typical style He-Man, classics He-Man style belt, loincloth, all black, just like the vintage figure had. It never had 2 different tones, like the belt was different, loincloth, one color. So that's accurate going back to the vintage. All right, let's see, moving around here. And then dropping down, he had the longer legs. All right, I always loved that with the classics too. They had normal legs, like going as far as aesthetics to a person. I mean, side, he's a reptile. So where the vintage figures are very stubby, but the Origins too. Now the knees articulate and the legs do stand up a little taller, and they do look better. So one thing as a kid I never liked with the vintage. It was fun for a while, but it always looked like they were just in a weird squat pose. I don't know, but yeah, I love that with the classics. So as far as these legs, go all the way out with a split, right? Kick forward, go back, bend at the knee, has that swivel. The legs are all the same, and yeah, again, I love the colors. I guess it's just a camouflage I want to call. I guess that's what that is for where they live and the type of weeds they have. Just plant life, just all kinds of wacky colors. And then moving down, so yeah, he's one of the few figures that had the 4-toe feet that spread out like that. It's another thing that really stood out with TUNG LASHOR. But he has painted nails, you can see, front and back. So that's pretty cool. And as far as articulation with these feet, you can... Wow, that one's stuck. All right, I can't move that one. I'll have to heat it up. How about this one? Nope, that one's stuck too. All right, I'm not going to break it, but you can see they go up and down and should rock side to side. I'm going to have to heat them up. And now, moving forward, taking a look at TUNG LASHOR's weapons and accessories. So yeah, he gets this dragonfly crossbow, very similar to what the vintage figure came with, but it's painted in a bright metallic blue color. That really stands out. You can see the clip that's going to clip over one of the hands or the gloves. And this one has an arrow sculpted sitting on top, where the vintage Origins one doesn't. It's just I wasn't sure how these work. They fired energy bolts or something out of the pinchers, or they had arrows, but this one has an arrow sculpted, which is pretty cool. And then of course it comes with that snake staff again, just like King Hiss, but this one's in a it's just in a flat purple tone. Again, it has the main staff is just separate from the snake. Mouth is open with teeth showing. Pretty cool. And then here's a closer look at that alternative head. So, yeah, there you go. There's the tongue, how it's sticking out. The teeth. Yeah, again, the mouth is halfway open. There's the back. Pretty flexible. Has a couple fangs hanging off the tongue. But that's, again, pretty cool idea. And this is a comparison real quick between the head I removed already. Right, the regular one, the one without the tongue, how they look. Okay, and then here's a quick look with Tongue Lasher all armed up with both weapons in hand, right? So obviously I put the snake staff in the right hand, a crossbow I just clip it near the wrist on the left side, and of course I put that alternative Tongue Lasher head on. Yeah, that's a little sloppy on the peg. It just rocks back and forth. That's something I can fix, but as far as the articulation with that head, so you got to move this out of the way. He can look all the way to the left, the right. Yeah, so he does look down more, but see how sloppy it is in back. You know, so again, it's something I can fix, but it had a tongue, so it just sits in there. Obviously it doesn't have an action feature. And for people who aren't familiar, the vintage one had like a roller button on the, I think it was on the back side here. And then when you would roll it up and down, it would have like a paper tongue that would come in and out through the body and the mouth. And the mouth was closed. It had like a little slit in it, like this closed mouth. Didn't have the mouth open, which I think is cool to add one to the classics. I always liked the idea of an alternative head with a open, ready, you know, I call it open battle ready face, or mouth open, showing teeth, and then a closed version of the mouth. So we get that with Tongue Lasher, plus this really cool looking tongue. So once again, moving forward, taking a look at some comparisons. So of course, here's our classic Tongue Lasher all set up with the alternative head and the Tongue Lasher tongue coming out of the mouth against the MOTU Origins Tongue Lasher, which, yeah, came out really cool for the Origins. Looks very much like the vintage, but, you know, just sculpted, paint a little better. Of course, you have articulation, knees now and arms, which, yeah, going back to the feet, just these figures stand up better when you straighten the legs all the way out. But they still have that nostalgic hunch, you know, upper leg, which is fine. Now, he had a plug-in tongue. This looked very similar to that paper tongue to the vintage, if you weren't familiar, had the figure or not. And this one does come out. And you can get custom ones, too, that are longer. It's fine for me. And again, the vintage one, yeah, had that roller thing, which they didn't sculpt that nod back to the Origins or the Classics either. Yeah, he has the snake staff, purple, and then there's a look at his crossbow compared to the Classics one, which kind of looks similar, but obviously the Classics has better detail, and I like that color on the Classics crossbow, the metallic blue. So for the next comparison, I brought in the Tongue Lasher NECA Staction figure against our Classics Tongue Lasher figure. Yeah, look at that design for Tongue Lasher. He's like Tongue Lasher, the Classics Tongue Lasher times 10. Yeah, really oversized. And so, yeah, he goes back to the 2000X show, or the Mike Young production. And in that show, they took a lot of the core characters like Tongue Lasher and Clawful, Whiplash, and they just made him overly large, which I kind of like that. It's different, you know, but look at all the details on his figure, the tongue. So, yeah, the Classics one took some inspiration from the tongue, or vice versa. I don't remember which figure came out first, but he has a couple pairs of teeth on his tongue showing, where this one has, yeah, 2 pairs. Now, he has no articulation. That was a downfall with these stactions, and that's why they're stactions. They're sort of like MOTU-inspired statues. I don't think it articulates, no. But the tongue is sort of soft, but yet hard. Look at that dragonfly crossbow. Oh, excuse me. Holy cow, it's not even, I don't even think it's a crossbow. I think it's like just an actual bug that he lets go, and he has poison back of the tail, and hunts people down. I'm not sure. But yeah, really cool compared to the Classics. And then for one last comparison against the Classics Tongue Lasher, I brought in the Super 7 Club Grayskull Classics Dalmatian-inspired Tongue Lasher. So just a quick look at those together. I mean, well, that's a downgrade from the 2000X NECA Staction Tongue Lasher. Yeah, that's pretty much what it looked like in animation. Now, he came with 2 heads as well, one with the tongue sticking out, which is this one, and then a regular one without it. He had a jetpack on the back of the armor, come with a blaster, pants on, and you notice too he has the Evil Horde insignia bat or the armor. So I guess that kind of, as far as the classics, going back to make him an Evil Horde member by just putting a band on him. Maybe this is where they drew some of the inspiration from. Because going back in the She-Ra animation, I believe that's where when TUNG LASHOR showed up, he was already a member of the Horde. From what I remember, it's been a long time. I have to rewatch some of them episodes. And I think in a comic book too, when you got the vintage TUNG LASHOR to look again like this, or more like the origins, I think the art showed TUNG LASHOR look very similar to this, but without the Horde bat on the chest. But yet you got this figure. That's interesting. But yeah, it's pretty much those two, both of those together. Okay, so moving to the last figure as part of this Classics opening list, we have RATTLOR. Yeah, again, RATTLOR was one of the 3 figures I picked up that day in Child's World with TUNG LASHOR and King Hiss. He had a very scary look to me. It was just something with the mouth and the way he had a shootout feature or action feature where the neck would shoot out of the body. And he was very tall with the main body, not wide like TUNG LASHOR, but he had stubby legs. And the Origins did the same thing with their figure, which I kind of wish they would have made the legs a little longer to match the upper body. Well, anyway, the Classics did that. Just gave normal sized legs to look more like a real person. It mixed with Reptile and Fantasy. Comes with the snake staff, and yeah, he doesn't have the action feature, obviously. It looks like they gave him the neck extension at the bottom and an open mouth, but it's so awesome to finally visit RATTLOR as part of the Classics line. And of course, here's a bio for RATTLOR. You want to pause and read that. And here's a quick look around with the Classics RATTLOR, cut out a card with all his accessories. So, taking a closer look at the Classics RATTLOR. Look at that head sculpt. That is as snake-like as it can get. Awesome. Wow. Yeah, I love how they have the mouth sculpted open. Again, just like the vintage or the Origins. You have the 2 upper fangs hanging out. Your tongue's, sculpted and painted back inside the mouth a little bit. I love those eyes. Big yellow eyes, but reptile type, the slits, but they're red and they're like on an angle. It's just different, both the left and right side. Yeah, scales all over the main head. Here's a look from the top. Just how they scaled it up, or rows of them anyway. Okay, look from the back. Here's the other side. Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. So as far as the articulation with this head, go all the way to the left, right, and let's say look down and look up somewhat. Gets hindered by the scales. But yeah, I love this design. I always did for RATTLOR. And the Classics really, man, makes them stand out. I like too how the plating on the back of the head kind of merges or overlaps with the plates. Kind of like shingles, on a house. Like, yeah, the shingle material. Over the back, these back plates. And just works its way all the way down to the back, the tail. That's so cool looking. All right, so taking a look at the buck and chest. Now, yeah, another great design. Just heavy plating, very similar to King Hiss, but different. And it just stands out because it's yellow, and then you have the mixes. Obviously the red armor plating all over the body and head. And then the neck too on him. It extends up a little bit on his Classics figure to where the Origins and the Vintage is a little bit different. So going down, he has the ab crunch again, even with the plated armor, and yeah, obviously it goes all the way down to his stomach into this belt. All right, you can see it from the back. All right, so moving over to the arm, go to the right arm. That too, the colors, not only the red and the yellow, but there was always something that just caught your eye with RATTLOR with the blue seams going down both the arms and legs. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So as far as the articulation with the arms, you can go all the way up, down, forward, back, bicep swivel, typical stuff. Straighten the arm out, bend the elbow or arm in, go all the way to the mouth, to the body, twist all around. So it's pretty good. And then he has a semi-pose hand for weapon gripping. Right, we know that can spin. Even that too has some of this color, the extra plating coming down color with the blue. And of course, when you spin a hand, you break the aesthetics. All right, I'm moving over to the left side. All the same, nothing different. All right, left, right. Let's test it out. Oh, it's interesting you have a blue joint side there. That must be so when you... Well, that's good, because when you bend the arm down, there's no risk of chipping. Because they're trying to blend, these blue colors and aesthetics. Like if this was a painted joint, it would chip and split. Obviously, you're doing this articulation. I can't stand that when they do that with figures. With mismatched ball joints or joints. That's a good idea. All right, so... all that stuff we already said. Bicep swivel. Bent at the arm, right? Same type of semi-pose hand for weapon gripping. Can spin. Oh, he's got painted nails too, I just noticed. All right. And then you notice too, he has a horde band just like TUNG LASHOR right on his side. Again, if you read the bio, Cobra Khan double cross RATTLOR from getting rank. And he also went to the side of the horde. So, yeah, it's interesting. All right, so moving down. So check out the belt and loincloth. So that's like a, you have the longer 2000X style loincloth as well as the belt. Well, Rattler always had this style belt, excuse me. This reminds me of something like that. Of course, the green snake symbol painted up over the belt, gold. And here's a look from the back when when you bend the ab crunch, and you can see how it blends in underneath the tail. All right, we'll get to that soon. Trying to still check this figure out as I'm looking at him. So moving down, same thing with the legs. Now here we go again. So those longer legs to match the longer aesthetics in the body, but Rattler in the Classics looks he's perfect. He looks different. Again, the Origins and Vintage just had a very tall body. Not that he does, but it just stood out more. And the stubby legs, and he just, yeah, just the size of everything matches really well. Looks good. All right, that being said, so, all right, again, here with the legs, the plating, blue armor, the yellow. So you got the red scaly armor, which is the main part of his skin, the yellow, and then the blue. And, yeah, I wonder what the point of that design was. Rank or just his type of species, a snake, a reptile. Anyway, stands out. So, as far as the articulation with the legs, go all the way out with a split. All right, kick forward, go back, bend at the knee. Let's test the other side. Feels good, looks good, bend at the knee. Of course, they have the leg swivel, right side too. And then dropping down, he just has a kind of a, they're not boots, but it's like a pair of just regular feet, but they're unique, just like TUNG LASHOR used his own unique feet. So did Rattler. He had 2 toes and then a little, like, not a toe, but just a piece, yeah, little toes, I guess, sticking off the back. That was different. And again, I like how the scaly multicolor armor comes all the way down on top of the feet, just like it does on the arms and the hands. And then the foot, let's see, okay, and go up and down, rock side to side a little bit. And again, so you have a blue joint in there to match this, so you don't chip that, moving up and down. And same thing with this foot. Okay, so once again, taking a look at the back of RATTLOR, one of the most noticeable parts is obviously his tail. So we already talked about the larger, the scaling armor that goes down the back, which is technically, this is where his tail starts and merges into the armor, right? So this is, yeah, I guess basically the top part of the tail. And then moving down, look at that tail. You got the rattle piece on the end. It's like a rattlesnake. Yeah, the Classics just, again, went about it so cool. And the Origins and the Vintage, too. It had that little rubbery tail, but it was hollow. And the Origins didn't improve that. I was hoping to be a solid piece, because when you look at it from the front, it just looks cheesy. This is a nice solid tail. So it can articulate back and forth like this, but, obviously when you turn it, it breaks the aesthetics. See the yellow. It's weird. Just doesn't look right. But it does articulate. And the main tail itself it's flexible and you can bend it if you want, mess around with it, but it's just a hard piece of pre-posed plastic, sculpted. There's no bendy wire, nothing like that. Not that I needed it. Oh, got paint slop here already from the red. And then obviously the back of them, tail, you can see from the inside, yellow going all the way down, and of course the outer color matches his body. To the back of that RATTLOR, and the plating goes, let's see, all the way down as well, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Just awesome design though, and colors. All right, so taking a look at RATTLOR's weapons and accessories. So of course he comes with that extended neck piece that sort of mimics the Vintage and Origins extended neck piece, but now it's just a plug-in neck. It's not, obviously, he doesn't have the action feature like most Classics don't. The Vintage one, there was a button in the back, and so was the 2000X figure. And when you pushed it, the neck would snap out with the head, and it was all yellow. Now this one has the scales. It's red around most of it, and then you have the yellow in the front, of course, and then you can see the ball peg. So he does get that. Of course, he comes with his own snake staff, very identical to TUNG LASHOR and King Hiss, but this one's red with a gold wand going all the way up top, and the teeth are painted in this one. So is the eyes. That's pretty cool. So excellent detail. And now this piece is the armor, or the 2000X inspired armor that makes him General RATTLOR. If you go back to that show, this came in the accessory pack. Did not come as part of RATTLOR's packaging. Was not in there. I think originally it was supposed to be, and because of the budgeting, just what he cost, they had to cut it. So they put it in the accessory pack. But yeah, I actually got that. Opened the pack up a while ago, and we'll try it on him. And now, once again, taking a look at Rattler. I have him set up with his snake staff in hand, the right hand for now. And of course, I put that neck extension on. Yeah, that looks awesome. And it's really long too. Kind of looks deceiving, just that short piece by itself. But because the way this neck, the body was designed, the neck is raised up and shoulders, it appears a lot longer. I don't know, to me. Here's look from the back, the side. So as far as the articulation with the neck, it has a little bit of articulation. You can spin it, back and forth, up and down a little bit. And then, of course, the head can spin all around. And that, too, has a little bit of articulation. More, it can look more up, not down. But it's still pretty cool for what it is. Okay, and with the same setup, I just drew that 2000X inspired armor on Rattler. And now we have our general Rattler. We have the staff in hands, snake staff, right, neck extension on. And here's a quick look at that setup. Yeah, that armor looks really cool on him. It's difficult to put on, too. I had to really heat this with a blow dryer straps to stretch them, be able to get those pins in. It seemed like they're too short, but it worked. Once again, moving on to some comparisons. I only got really one or two as far as the Origins goes. So yeah, here's our Classics Rattler all set up. And of course, I have the 2000X armor on against the Origins Rattler. And you notice I also have a 2000X inspired Rattler armor on his buck, as well as a belt. That came off the 2000X Rattler figure with the action feature, which I got rid of, or something broke in him, and it had the armor in his piece, and I actually took it off, and it worked on his figure. So that looks pretty cool. So you can see the differences, right, with the neck, how it's all yellow. See, there's that rubbery tail, if you're not familiar. I mean, looks all right for the Origins, but yeah, that hollow, cheap look. The short, stubby legs, it's with the tall upper body. It's, I mean, yeah, they should have made these a little bit taller. For Origins, though, it's still fun. They had a snake staff, everything else. And he rattles, too. He has a rattle piece and size action feature, which the Classics don't. Should have mentioned that. Beside that, they're still fun, and I like them both. They both work, whether you collect the Origins or the Classics. And then, for the last comparison, or we'll call it a bonus comparison, because I wasn't even really going to bring this figure in. So here's a quick look between, of course, our Classics Rattler and the Origins Turtles of Grayskull mutated Rattler. For people who are familiar, maybe you're not. But, yeah, this is what they did to Rattler. And then when he become mutated with the U's in the Turtles line, it's part of the Origins. So, yeah, it would have been interesting to make something like that in the Classics. Now, these videos I usually don't swap parts around. And this figure, too, it really makes him stand out as all this armor and stuff, the neck piece. You had a little clips on the arms. And this figure, too, they gave him translucent body parts, but they put, leg extensions and then wacky feet that made him, he just looks better with the longer, the taller body. Kind of wish they did that with the regular Origins Rattler. I already said stubby. But anyways, quick look at those two together. I mean, just interesting seeing Rattler mutated part of that series. Okay, and for another additional bonus, and I wasn't going to do it, but for part swappers or people curious, I wanted to see what parts from the mutated Rattler figure, this one, could fit on the Classics, because some of the parts you don't have to break the waist in half, or most Classics don't break at the waist. So I put those little forearm gauntlet things. They kind of hold on to forearms of this Classic Rattler, but they do fall off easy. They do on this figure too. They're stupid. You gotta I band them on. Yeah, I put the Classics head and neck on this figure just to see what it looks like. It doesn't fit well the ball peg. Colors don't really match, but that's not what I was really trying here. So I put this open, the neck, the open head that's split open. Even though the colors are off, it could work. Very close to the staff, actually. I want to see if it sits over the neck, sort of. But then the main thing is this mutated head. I want to see if it would fit on the neck. I mean, that's what it would look like, but no, it doesn't. You can't push it down. It can't lock into the peg. Without modifying it, look at those things falling off. There's the back of that armor, so that does snap over the body. Yeah, I guess if you drill one of these open, you might be able to fit and go down. It's just something with the neck with this figure, because certain parts on Origins will fit Classics if you heat them up, and this one's like an exception where it's having a hard time. And if you're curious what it would look like with some modification, anything's possible on the Classics and the other figure. That's what it looked like, and it's kind of creepy. At least what you could put on his figure from the other one. Alright, so that about does it. That's part 10 of opening up my MOTU Classics figures with King Hiss, TUNG LASHOR, and RATTLOR. And I gotta say, there are just 3 more awesome Classics to finally remove out a card, play with them, review them, switch their parts around, check out the articulation, really look at them up close. I mean, they're just great. Yeah, Rattlor is just incredible. What a beautiful sculpt, paint, details, articulation, tail, head. You know, the extension, the neck extension piece, and of course we have this armor, bumps him up a notch. Tongue lasher too, colors, you name it, tongue, weapons. Yeah, the weird feet, kind of like going back to the vintage. I really like them. And then the star of the show is King Hiss. Now you notice I kind of made a little piece to mount this 2000X Serpent King Hiss body. It's kind of sloppy, but it works. And yeah, we talked about, so the neck spins, you have the open mouth with the tongue, but all these are on bendy wires, you know, the main snakes. Some of the mouths are open, like the ones on the main, these two, and let's see, okay, this one here and this one as well. He has a little snake wrapped around coming this way. Yeah, that just looks awesome for King Hiss, but you don't need that, you know, I mean, just the parts they give you alone. The vintage, the main vintage body with the armor looks just awesome. You know, it's like being a kid again, but much better with detail. And then, of course, you know, even this serpent piece, too, is just as good. I like it. Just, again, with the bendy snake wire, the main snakes, is with bendy wires, the open mouth, colors. It all works. I mean, it's just, these figures get better and better taking them out of card. And it was so exciting to finally get to the Snake Men. So, as always, I appreciate everybody watching. Until next time, take care.